Rio. The Gran Abuelo, the big grandfather or the great grandfather, was a series of portraits of Fidel Castro made by Pedro Pablo Oliva starting in 2003. It was a series of very strange, unusual portraits of Fidel Castro by any standard. We Cubans were used to the image of a leader. Of course, we saw him in every single, billboard, picture, film, on television. And Oliva came with this serious and a very different approach to the image of the leader. Here in The Great Grandfather, that's the title of the painting, was the second painting of the series and one of the key masterpieces in the series. We see this very old man, gray-haired, his eyes closed, sitting on an armchair with a cat on his lap. And the usual commander-in-chief uniform, the military fatigue we were so used to, has been turned into pajamas. This was a really odd image for us Cubans when it came out. We were not used to it. Fidel Castro was also, when we went on a public presentation, he was always standing, always ready for a fight. He was full of energy, full of tension. Even when he was sitting in a Congress or a summit, he was so full of tension that it seemed as if at some point he would stand up and start talking. But this is such a quiet image that you can even see this fruit making a balancing act on the leader's head. And these lizards or chameleons are thriving around him. And he's like in the midst of a green ectoplasm, an eerie atmosphere, like otherworldly, like unreal. So the painting was not very well received, and since it came out, it has not been allowed to be publicly displayed. It can only be found here in the artist's main studio in Pinar del Rio. It's one of the masterpieces in the artist's own collection. The reasons why this is such a controversial image and it has not been allowed to be publicly displayed is it may seem obvious at first time. All things Cuban, of course, this image of Pedro Pablo Oliva was subject to many interpretations, political interpretations especially. There were those on the other side of the Florida Strait that thought that the artist was being far too ambiguous, ambivalent in representing the image of what they thought was a ruthless dictator that had suppressed civil liberties in Cuba and has dealt this country into despair, into economic crisis. And on the other side, the cultural officials of the Cuban government thought he was being disrespectful, he was being subversive, and he was giving ideological and symbolic weapons to the enemy to discredit the image of the leader. What is true and what is false is difficult to say, because actually the series has got nothing to do with the political interpretation of the leader, as it has to do with a human interpretation of this image, which was very important for Oliva. Oliva was 10 years old in 1959, so since he was a little child, he was used to see this image, and it was part of his life. He was part of a revolution. And the title of the series, The Great Grandfather, probably has to do with that. Fidel Castro, in a way, could be seen as Oliva's grandfather. The artist has been reluctant to give the ultimate meaning of this painting or of the whole series. But he has said something that can make us understand what it is all about. His sole intention was to portray the human dimension of someone that for us Cubans was simply a social construct, the result of propaganda, a myth, a semi-god, which we saw every day of our lives in all those billboards and films and pictures. So there came a moment where Oliva realized that we didn't know him. I mean, who are you? How did we come to this? Was this true? And since all we know about you are these images, these films, who are you in real life? How are you as a human being? And that's what the series is all about. Oliva's attempt to portray the humanity of someone we actually didn't know.